I got a lot to say on episode 7. I like that these time jumps are really working out for me. Let me just say that right away. We really get you can infer a year's worth of world building very effectively from what they've done, because we open here on the rebel base being all grown up now in Yavin 4.
Yeah,
like we're in the temples. We got people running flight yards, storage yards. We got quartermasters, pilots, troops coming in. They're a regulated militia at this point, is what they are.
Yeah,
it's much bigger than Luthen Rail's small group of people. And my first take right off the rip is I like that he's estranged from this process now. Something changed in between chapters, and I think that's cool because it lays into conflict that's definitely going to come up now that we've seen the end of episode 9. We're going to see some big conflict between Andor and Luthen probably heading into 10, 11, 12. So I love this advancement forward. It's working really well for me.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that Luthen Rail has been pulled back because of his lack of presence that you see throughout this whole chapter. Technically, I mean, you only really see him in episode 9.
Very end.
Yeah. You don't see him in 8, and you don't see him in 7. So where we are is you're at the boiling point right here. Like you're building a real army, as you can see that the Rebel Alliance, and they're using the Jedi temples there on Yavin as their starting point, which just happens to be where Andor was in episode 1. So it's like, I wonder if he's kind of scouted it out and knew that was there, and then told them to come back, and maybe they found the bones of level 1 rebels. Now we're up to level 7. They're at the level 10 now, level 10 rebels at this point.
Thankfully, they did not appear in this episode, because I would have been like, this is stupid. But anyway, continue. Give me some thoughts.
I mean, that's what I thought about them to begin with, is that they were the level 1 rebels.
No, I don't care about those guys. I mean about the episode. Screw those guys. They were terrible. No, episode 7, man.
But I think those guys needed to show how much they'd grown to this point. True. And one of the reasons why I think Luthen Rail's pulling out, and they've hinted at it through the other chapters, is that he had too many things going on in his head, and he was losing control. He's like, all right, we got to move this to a new point and hand this off, so I can't be the centerfolk of everything. I'm just the agitator now. That's what I'm doing. Plus, he might be seeing a little bit of regret about what's happening on GHORMAN, which is the central planet in this whole process, in this full season. So I think it needed him to pull out. Plus, you're going to have a leader arise, and we know it's not Luthen. So, and they've set that up pretty nicely in this 3-chapter arc here.
For it to be Mon. Pretty much, like as we get to see the rebellion in episode 4, A New Hope. The movie proper. But see, I don't know that I think that it's Luthen's having any kinds of regrets about what's happening on GHORMAN, because I think he's proven his predilection for using and for burning assets as they come. I wonder if it goes the other way for him, where he was at his most effective with a small scale cell operation, and now maybe he's seeing bureaucracy and red tape, because we get a little bit of that. Especially when the new troops are coming in, they're told, report to your duty officers before rack time, before food, before this, the flight. I don't know the correct term. You could probably tell me, but the guy that basically tells Andor he can't leave, he's in the Rogue One movies, like base commander kind of thing. But they're very much moving into regimented stuff. And even Bix mentions we're getting really organized around here. So maybe Luthen isn't down with all of the pomp and circumstance and the parliamentary procedure of mission briefings.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's that.
The easier way to say it is that Luthen and what he's doing is more CIA, where everything that's happening there is more DOD.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like the rebels are becoming everything almost along the line of like a national army. It's like they're basically a defense force. They have a rank system and a hierarchy. There is a chain of command that can get you shot if you mutiny or if you try to go AWOL. So I'm feeling like something like that's going to come up in these next 3 episodes in 10, 11, 12. I bet you that happens with one of these characters. I kind of can feel it a little bit. But episode 7 is a pretty solid setup. We get everybody a year later. We see cracks in various relationships continuing to kind of push through. We know in between episodes 6 and 7, Andor took a blaster wound to the back, because that's referenced frequently through a couple of the episodes here as something that he can't heal, that he can't get over. They bring in like a Jedi Force healer in a different episode. No, actually, that isn't this episode.
That is that episode. And once again, it is a Force healer. It is not a Jedi.
Not Jedi.
There is
no
a
Jedi.
difference.
Somebody that's sensitive, and and they even within the world are like, I don't know, it could be BS, might not be. These people all believe in it, and then the woman herself was even like, I don't know that shit. It might be helpful, it might not be. I don't know. I'm just trying to help people, but she's not out there like a snake oil salesman or anything like that. It was all very earnest.
Yeah,
when we get to that scene,
and it also plays into what Andor actually means to the Force itself, where he's not Force sensitive, but he is moving the timeline. Like he's one of those anchor beings, as they refer to in the MCU multiverse.
Oh, you do. I was hoping you didn't say that. I even had that on the note. I'm like, he's going to compare this to fucking Deadpool and Wolverine. He's 100% going to go TVA on it. But it's true. What did she call him? She called him a messenger. Was it an agent
messenger
or something? Messenger. It was messenger.
Right, that was the name of the episode, Messenger.
Oh shoot, I missed that. Cool. All right, that makes sense then. So it plays into the larger destiny that we know he has. He's pivotal, obviously, to what goes on in this show, for better or worse. And then obviously in Rogue One, like Rogue One doesn't happen without him making the decisions he makes.
Yeah, and then you have Luthen who outlines this again in episode 9, which we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yep. So I think that as an episode overall, I feel like you've hit the nail on the head with their 3-episode structure for this kind of show, is that episode 1 of every block is almost notoriously slower paced.
Yep.
It has interesting things in it. Like I can't complain. Like I'm not dozing off watching this show, but it feels to me like a kind of TV show that would probably be more at home in the 70s. It's just slower. It's like watching a spy serial from back in the day, and that there is a lot of, I don't want to say feelings in hallway, because that's kind of like a stream. That's like a channel joke between us. Feelings here, feelings there, feelings everywhere. What we get here is like, I don't even know the right word for it. We get exposition, but again, it's not weighted in a way that makes it dull. And none of the scenes ever drag on too long to take me out of it while they're telling me what's happening.
Yeah. How you have to look at it is you have to break the 3-act structure and go to the 6-act structure.
Right.
You have you have 1A where you have the introductory and where they tell you where they are now, which we all find out they're Yavin. It's easy to point out stuff like that. Then you have the 1A where you find out who they are, and then you find a person who gives them the task. And then you start sliding into 2A when they accept the task. Then 2B is when they're fully in. 3, they're moving to the conflict, and 3B is when they resolve the conflict.
Right. And what's interesting about that is that same paradigm applies not only to each episode, but it applies in whole to each episode. That like episode 8 is literally episodes 2, parts 2A and B, like you described. That it's the mission is underway, or the big event happens, and then resolution literally comes in 3A and 3B. But the big event in episode 7 is we already see Andor trying to figure out that he wants to make decisions for himself, that he's thinking about leaving, when his buddy Wilmon, who's now with Saw Gerrera, or maybe he's back with them because his dialogue now is, hey, where have you been? And he goes, I was on a repair. So he's not integrated fully into Saw's group. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he left him. Didn't seem like that would be a thing. But Wilmon brings him an interesting bit of knowledge from Gorman, and that Daedra Miro is stationed there. And of course, Andor, they all do. Andor knows who she is.
Yeah.
He remembers her, but then it's when Wilmon breaks out his iPad and says, hey, here's the chick, and puts it in front of him. He shows Bix, and Bix is like, that chick was in the room when Gorse tortured me.
Yeah. Right? And he also earlier referred to as she's the one who destroyed Felix.
Right. That she was present, that she was the ISB officer that was there, that Cyril rescued at the last second when you had him at gunpoint. He got away and rescued her during the riot, right? So that's the big setup, is that now he's like, well, I was going to leave this whole rebel outfit because like I've done enough. And dude, the guy's done enough. Like he really has. So my heart goes out to him.
And it's also him reaching out for Luthen. He put that out. It's like, Luthen's been waiting for you, stuff like that. So what I think Willem did is that he's like playing both of the rebel sides. So he has a home just in case one fails.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And remember, Saw Gerrera is the far extreme of the rebels too. They mentioned that in Rogue One. Like, he's the rebel that the rebels don't even want to deal with.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Do they find him distasteful? They literally find him distasteful. It's not that he's reckless or a wild card. They're like, his tactics are brutal. Like, he's not above killing rebel citizens or rebel inclined, rebel leaning places, to get the job done. And of course, we saw that was brought up by Tay Coloma in earlier episodes, where he got a little tanked at that party, and he was like, I didn't think this rebel thing would actually impact my business.
Yeah.
That this war would impact my business, that by helping you somehow I would be immune, but like, no, your activities are actually hurting my bottom line. Yeah. So we've seen that the rebels in different places don't necessarily have everybody else's interests as like a first kind of consideration. But the mission here then is, can I get you back, Wilmans? Can I get you Andor back on GHORMAN? This chick's always in public. If we put you up in a nice little hotel across the Marriott across the courtyard, can you get a shot off?
Yeah.
And they're like, he's a little back and forth, but he goes. Like, he tells base commander, listen, I'm out. You can't stop me. Base commander's like, this is unacceptable. Andor tells him, the day comes that you tell me when I can and cannot go, I'm out. Don't push me. And I'm like, okay. Well, backbone on that.
Because he said that this thing isn't supposed to be used for privateers.
Right.
And that's kind of how he was acting was.
Right. But his next line, he tries to Andor with the whole, those that want the security of Yavin need to prove their loyalty. And Andor's like, who are you? Like, I'm the guy doing all this shit. Like, loyalty proven. So I love those conflict beats that come up between people on the same team. Like, not all good conflict comes between the protagonist and an enemy. Like, base commander is a minor thorn in the side antagonist right now, not an enemy, not in the story. But it is a thorn that needs to be contended with, because again, there is a chain of command. And if base commander says, listen, we need to shoot this dude, like, there's going to be 9 guys that'll shoot him. Like, that's how those kind of drum trials work, like they probably don't have a legal process and defense attorneys and things like that for mutiny or privateering or whatever else. So Andor gets back to goes back to GHORMAN. He goes with GHORMAN. He goes back. He's under a new identity. He doesn't use his the previous fashion designer identity, which I thought was funny. But I loved seeing the kid that was the valet at the hotel now at the front desk recognize him, because he's now in on the alliance. Like, he's now down with the rebels, which I thought was cool. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty tight scene. We can see everybody that's impacted by the Empire being there, like, coming online.
Yeah, she will report you tomorrow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the tip. And then he, reveals later, we didn't submit that shit because basically I threw it away.
Yeah, he said, I didn't even log you in the system.
Right. Yep. And Andor's just like, oh, thanks. Like, okay, maybe a little pat on the back, a little firm handshake, something. Nothing.
Yeah, like, he left the suitcase that he brought the gun in the room too.
Okay, now let's wrap up this discussion of episode 7, because nothing really big pops off. It is a great setup episode.
It's a setup episode. No big bang
no
beats.
explosions, no pew pews, nothing like that. There's no AT-ATs to come stomping. Dude, imagine if they got an AT-AT to come stomping through the square though.
No, I think the other ones made a better impact. What they did.
Yeah, true. We'll release the hounds. Like, we'll get to that. I will say this though. No, we'll save that for episode 8. Also, I had a TIE fighter thing that I wanted to point out. This last wrap-up scene here, when Andor gets back to GHORMAN, he's with Wilmon. Wilmon goes back to the underground because now he's fully integrated with them. He's kind of one of their operatives. He's dating Drina, or whatever, the blonde girl that's on the radio at the end of episode 8. And like, knife right through the heart on that. Like, that was brutal, dude. He sets up in his room. Right. And he's got the rangefinder, and he's looking at all his POIs, and he's looking at where stormtroopers are. Right. And he opens up the suitcase. Right. And I laughed out loud. It's typical James Bond shit. Like, the suitcase opens and there's a disassembled rifle. The difference is when Bond does it, there's like 3 pieces. Andor's rifle has like 12 pieces that he has to assemble.
And it fires by itself without putting it together.
Right. And I'm like, it looks cool, I guess. Maybe it's multiple guns. I don't know. But like, when he actually takes it outside, he doesn't, or when he brings it out, he doesn't get a chance to use it right away because his fucking hotel room is right underneath an Imperial Stormtrooper like Overwatch point that he breaks out the spy mirror and he can see them. And I'm like, okay, conflict point. So he's going to get down to he's going to take his shot from the ground, which is ballsy as hell because they're in Gorman. I'm just going to call it Gorman Square. I don't remember what it's got a memorial name, but it's where it's now been cordoned off by the Empire. Like hardly anybody's allowed in. It's all checkpoints at all the gates. You know what I mean? But Andor's just down there on the promenade standing next to a column and he just pulls this thing up. And he's looking at Daedra, and I'm like, I mean, you can take the shot right now and probably get her, but he doesn't. Like, he probably don't want to capture and kill. I get it, but I just thought it was funny seeing that gun come out of the case in like 15 pieces, because then he's carrying it in like 2 hip holsters in different components, and he has to re-put it back together again.
And that's in episode 8.
Was that 8? Whatever. Well,
that was 8.
But whatever. It was funny seeing him have to put that gun together. I thought it was good.
Yeah, Luthen wanted Daedra dead because she was poking around to find him.
Because her whole mission in life was finding Axis. That's his code name. Was Luthen's code name for the ISB. And that we're seeing now. Oh, dude, I mean, we probably should have talked about Daedra and Cyril then before we go. It's a year later. Cyril's also integrated as a mole of the ISB in the underground, looking for foreign agitators that are drumming everything up. And Daedra knows that this is all bullshit at this point because she has yet another phone call from Partagast. It was like, yeah, no, we're pretty much there. We don't need to worry about the bullshit story anymore.
Still one of my favorite characters.
I love Partagast. Yeah, one of the best. One of the best.
Wish he would flip and join the rebels just so he's on the good side, but
couldn't hurt. But he's Qyburn from Game of Thrones. He ain't flipping. He's loyal to the bad guys. But it was, and another thing that we should probably talk about here, just based on the title that you propose we use. This is our first glimpse at how the Empire uses the media to write their bullshit. Yeah, is that the media is all using the same talking points. There's a transition scene. I don't remember if it's in. I think it's in this episode where he's saying something about that we have to prove that it's Ghorman that doesn't want to live by normal Imperial standards.
And
it segues right into a reporter saying verbatim that talking point.
Yep.
And I'm like, yup, that happened in real life. Based AF. Dude, is this show based AF? What happened? Is this show like a right-leaning show now? Because I remember that. I remember you guys doing that shit for like 5 years. COVID, J6, lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Russian collusion, anybody? Steele dossier, laptop. It goes on and on. And they get into this as a motif through episodes 8 and culminate big in 9 with the Mon Mothma speech that we'll get to in 9. But I just wanted to say, I think this is how you do politics in Star Wars without having anybody pick a side, because all the stuff remains ambiguous enough that regardless of your political affiliation in real life, you could be like, oh yeah, he's talking about the other guys. It's the other guys that suck. They do that.
Yeah.
And that's all I want. That's why I can't complain that there's politics in this part of Star Wars. It's supposed to be. It's propaganda and spy thriller stuff. That's exactly what it needed.
And it's an evil government.
Right. Which, again, depending on what side you're on in real life, you always view the other guy's side as the evil government, even if it's only objectively true at one side. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, so I thought it was a good setup episode. Bring me up some flavor. Bring me up the flavor, God.
All right. Whoop.
All right. I'm going first on this one, just so I can get out of the way. It's sizzling, dude. It's sizzling. I'm ready. And actually, we had some pretty good peppercorn and boneless buffalo wings today for Dad's birthday, so it's pretty cool. Happy birthday, Dad. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, by the way. You'll get this a little bit later, but happy Mother's Day. Dude, I'm gonna give this a Pitmaster 8. It was nearly perfect. I think it suffers from the same things that I haven't liked about episode 1s in these mini 3 arcs for the whole run of the show, even going back to season 1. There's enough interesting stuff here, but I kind of wish they had at least one action sequence, even if it was brief, even if it was just Andor choking a dude out in the hallway and dragging his body into the closet to take his ID card, something just to get it going. Like I remember in chapter 1, they had the TIE fighter heist. That's a pretty good way to bring your show back to, after like a 3-year layoff, like, inject it with some adrenaline. So I think this one needed a little bit of that, but otherwise it's just setting chess pieces on the board where they need to be. And they're all where they need to be for chapter 8.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 7. because it is a low and slow type episode. It definitely put all the chess pieces where they needed to be. One of the things I did want to bring up was you're seeing a change in Daedra in this one too, because you see hear her phone call with Pendergrass. He's like, "You're too emotional. Calm down. Stand straight." Like they're recording the phone call and like he's editing it as they go so she can still look good, because it's a big win for everybody. At least on the ISB side, because what Pendergrass is trying to do is that the ISB is the right hand of the Empire, instead of like Vader and his people. He wants ISB as like the main people. So that's why I'm going with 7. It's great political intrigue. It's great spy thriller, and it does exactly what it needs to do to start off chapter 3, which will lead us to the height of chapter 4 as well.
All right, guys, welcome back to Winterwolf's Den. Winterwolf here. King Z is going to be over there, and we're going to do episode 8 of Andor. They're calling it chapter 3, season 2. It's all very confusing. It's just Andor season 2, episode 8.
Yep.
Just drop this chapter talk altogether. And dude, I'll say it. It might be a hot take for the 9 of us that are watching this show, which makes me very sad. That hurts me right in the feels. This might be the best part of Disney Star Wars I've seen ever in any show, including Rogue One. The tension they managed to write into this episode hurt. It made me physically uncomfortable seeing what they were building to. I felt for the old man in the square, like the old leader of the underground, where he's talking to his daughter and he's like, they are baiting us into a fight. We are all going to die here if you go through with this stupid shit. Like you're being baited right now. And for a guy that was solid and put together for like the first 3 episodes that we met him, to see him just go face crack, voice crack, like, whoa, okay. Like it sold me on tension rising all the way to the inevitable, and then the ultimate crash in the aftermath of what goes down. It was ugly, but it was the best episode I think they've ever done.
Okay, that's high praise on this one.
Yeah. So what do you think overall, and then we'll find our way through the plot.
I think this had some very strong character beats. You saw some definitely changes of personality and maybe even their thoughts on life in general. An unsung, unlikely hero. Mm-hmm. And then, it was interesting to watch, and it got brutal at times.
Dude, at times, and those times start at about the 18-minute mark of the hour-long episode and don't let up.
Yeah.
Like they don't let up. And it's basically, dude, this is going to be like a 25-minute glazing of me being like, yep, these were great performances by every actor. Dude, every actor involved, and even like the side characters whose names I don't remember, like the 3 or 4 main characters within the underground. I know that the daughter's name was Enza, but I don't remember the guy who was staggering home drunk that caused Cinta to accidentally get shot. The guy that spoke passionately at the town meeting. I think he's with the cap. I don't know his name, but like I consider him a main. And then there's the other.
There's the guy who brought the blaster who wasn't supposed to.
Yep, and he's still affiliated with the rebellion, which is the underground. I'm like, okay.
And then you had like 2 others.
With the short hair.
Yeah, then you had the other tall guy.
Yep.
And then there was 2 more females. The
one chick is Drina, because that's the one that Willman's with, the radio operator.
Yeah, and then there was one other one who got that was with them as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the daughter's friend, and then Dana, the 3 females that were primary characters. Then you had the Empire, where you had Daedra, you had the sergeant. They just called him the sergeant.
They brought in a few new guys. Well, there was a Sergeant Kaido. He's the one. He was like the black-hearted one. Like he was the one that just did not give a F.
Yeah, and he had a specialty.
Yep, crisis intervention specialist or something.
Yep, and then they had the other sergeant that he kind of yelled at. So I thought this guy was like either an officer. He's like, get these like, well, they ain't my guys, but I'll do my best. He's like, are we going to have a problem?
No, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, they introed a bunch of effective side characters. Let's not even just mess around. they're building towards the Empire finally getting what they want on Ghorman. They've laid out like a 1.5 year long public disinformation campaign that paints that there's a Ghorman insurrection and they're doing massive catastrophic damage to Ghorman and to Empire interests. So they need to be crushed. There's a curfew in place. There's a planetary blockade that they mentioned at the beginning of the episode, so where it's like Ghorman assets have been frozen. There's no aid coming in, like there's human rights violations, but it's all Ghorman's fault. You get that? Because they lay the media stuff on thick in this episode, where they just show every reporter echoing the talking point from the Empire, all of them. And it made me sick to my stomach, dude, because we've seen this. We have seen this happen. We've seen it happen on this platform, but it's all very real. And it was done in a way that we've experienced firsthand.
Yes.
It made it that much more effective as they're building towards the atrocity that goes down. I think you're right, though. We do get amazing character arcs and conclusions here. And I would say one of them is about as Game of Thrones ever did. Cyril's has an amazing outcome because it's so brutally effective at how unfair life can be, and how every story doesn't go the way you want it to go.
Yeah.
So did not see that coming, because I wanted him to kill his mama, because I'm twisted like that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty twisted. Yeah, his story, like it starts off where he's trying to apologize to one of the rebels, the daughter, and he gets slapped. And then he goes
I thought they had a little something because of that, but maybe not.
Yeah. And then he went to Daedra, and like he knows something's going on. He's the first one to mention. He's like there's like mining equipment already landing all outside. They're here. Don't tell me it's a rumor.
Right. That comes later. Yeah. That comes later, right before it pops off. But he has that first conversation with her where it's like, well, what do you mean find outside agitators? That's what I'm here for. I haven't found any. Where are you that you know where they are? Oh, they blew up a base. They blew up a naval station that I can't even get into. Like he basically is figuring out that it's all bullshit. It's all red flag bullshit. It's all J6 bullshit. And
then she's like, we're going home. We're going back to Coruscant, just like you wanted. We're going to get huge awards. We're going to be heroes of the Empire.
Mm-hmm. That's their second conversation. Definitely. Yeah. Their first one is her pleading with him to pack and leave, because she's telling him in so many words this shit's gonna have its final pop off. And I'm like, okay. So she's starting to crack a little bit, which is interesting because we see how that resolves for her.
You see a little bit of it in the last episode, which we talked about in our review. This one you see a little bit more, and then you see like the full towards the end.
Oh, for sure. For sure, because it becomes unavoidable by the time they get down to it. I'm just checking the notes here. Yep. Cyril can't believe the lies. Oh yeah, dude. So that brings me to the TIE fighter point. So the whole big thing in this episode really is basically Tarkin Massacre 2 minus the Tark. It's sans Tark. Probably worse. Maybe not 500 dead. Maybe
I would say more.
Could be, because Radio Ghorman's all like, dude, there's hundreds dead in the square and thousands and more in the streets, but that's panic, and maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. So the Empire inexplicably opens the town square again. They pull barricades back into the doorway of the fortress, and all these poor Ghormans walk right up into the square. They got their signs, they got their fireworks, they got their noisemakers. It's
their flags.
We're Ghorman. We get the national flags. They're speaking their
and the galaxy is watching. We are Ghorman, and the galaxy is watching.
So the minute they started marching in, I'm like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it was telegraphed. It was telegraphed more than a right hook from Mike Tyson.
It wasn't subtle. It wasn't subtle, but that doesn't mean it can't be effective, because it kicked off like the ticking clock of dread, like because and then Andor's eyes on the ground still, and he's trying to line up to take the shot at Daedra, and he calls over to his buddy Wilman on their comm, and he's like, dude, what is going on out here? Like, did you know this is going to happen? And dude's just waking up. What do you mean? He's like, dude, they're opening the square, like they're taking down the barricades.
And they're putting up barricades. He's like, just like a fortress down here.
They were moving the barricades from in front of the monument, and they were pulling them back to the fortress to do exactly what you said, where he's like, they're not opening the square. They're building a fortress. Like, they're fortifying their complex office.
Yeah.
Office complex, right? That they're fortified. Their 900-story building, by the way. The establishing shot of the city are like 2-story buildings everywhere, and then like this palace thing that just goes up into the sky. It was kind of wild, right? It was a great shot. But Andor sniffs it out quick, fast, in a hurry. He goes on the move. He's checking different positions from around the square and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, something's not right. We get repeat like desperate performances from like the dad and other people that are like, they're moving in to celebrate, but dad's like, don't do this. I'm telling you, this is a stupid ass idea.
And then he even goes after Cyril. He's like,
he sees him in the crowd. Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Cause I thought
he's like, how dare you walk with us? Yep. And he's like, your people's doing this. Your people's going to kill all of mine. He's like, what are you talking about? And then he trying to like, almost confesses. He's like, we were looking for outside agitators. And like, didn't he punch him at that point?
The old dude grabbed him and put him up against a wall. He got in one more word. He was like, are you mad? Are you crazy or something? And then Cyril fucking throws his ass down into the street. People basically trample him. But
that's right.
He was basically walked over, and Cyril just bails into the crowd, which is his arc for the next like 10 minutes, because that dude, the shell shock that he's about to live with for his the rest of his life was pretty savage, because we get another great little bit of kind of like foreboding, tension, foreshadowing, where the crowd's now assembled in the square. And the 2 TIE fighters come in low, and everybody, even Cyril's like, it's not a typical air patrol here. Like, no, they're buzzing crowds, right? So you just do, and again, you just know, and just because you know doesn't make it any easier to like to tolerate and watch. Like, it still makes you kind of sick. And I really don't even want to go through like the blow by blow, but incrementally, the Empire is attempting to bait this crowd into doing something stupid. You know, they bring people in, they have the stormtroopers take up guard positions at the exits. And dude, that's the first time in 15 years stormtroopers have been intimidating to me. They're just watching 8 of them walk down on a crowd and then just stand in the doorway. I'm like, okay, like this isn't like Empire from like the sequel trilogy. Like, these guys are gonna fucking shoot. It's gonna get ugly, right? And then of course that they run right into like more like red flag stuff, where it's like, dickhead sergeant that you mentioned before tells other sergeant, take your guys on patrol in the crowd. We need to keep that central aisle clear. And the ordering sergeant, the secondary guy's like, these guys are Boy Scouts, and you see them. They're like 15 when they get off the troop transport. I'm like, okay, so they were sent there because they're fresh out of boot, and they're not going to know what to do. Right? So you can see it happening. But he takes them out there. They go out there with shock prods and riot shields, and the crowd starts throwing vegetables and shit like that, and it's getting ugly and it's a little weird. And then Resistance dude with the hat can see this getting out of hand, and he simmers the crowd. I'm just going to call it their national anthem.
That's pretty much what it was.
Yep. They just start singing, and dude, again, kudos to the supporting actors. The guy that's with Hat Guy, bleary-eyed crying, Enza's with them, bleary-eyed crying. Like, you can see national pride in these people. Like, very World War I, World War II, French Revolution, France. Like, I get it. I get what they're going for, and it worked. All of that worked, dude. And then dickhead sergeant again's like, all right, we've run through literally everything we can do. And he's like, yeah, Eagle One, I got a job for you. And you can take me through the rest, man. I need to get a drink.
I think this was the plan the whole way. That's why they had the young people there anyway. Because he's like, are you in place? And he's like, in place. He's like, you're clear to take the shot. Because even a Daedrid. So before this happens, you have her in the command room, and Cyril comes up there.
Oh yeah,
and she's like, step out, and they close, and he starts telling her, he's like, I hear it's a rumor, and then he starts choking her. Yep. And then she tells him the truth, like, we needed something that was under the ground, and we're going to take it. We did not want to pay for it, and we're going to take it, and this is how we're going to destroy
their planet, and this is how we're going to pop it off. There were never any outside agitators at all. There was like a homegrown resistance from when we got here, and you've basically been here for nothing, just like stirring them up into hope. You've been here to bait them into a fight. And he fucking cracks, dude.
And then he's like,
that might be the first time he yelled in 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, he like his backbone like solidified right there while he's choking her, and then he lets her go.
It was like the backbone equivalent of like the Grinch's heart growing 3 sizes. Like Cyril's backbone grew 3 sizes because he becomes like 6'4", and like you said, he goes in for the full cane choke slam on Daedra, and to her credit,
like 2 hands, two hands around her throat.
Twofer. He was Wayne Brady for a minute. It's crazy.
And then he was like, "Best of luck to everything you do, Daedra." And then he turns around and walks out, and she yells after him, and then she's like trying to regain herself, and then she's like, "Tell him to take the shot."
And she hates that as well, because she has to get prompted into that by Dickhead Sergeant, if you remember. Yeah, they have that whole little scene where he's like, what did he say? You're the finger, but I'm the trigger. You're the trigger, and I'm the finger. I don't remember how the analogy worked.
Oh yeah, you're the finger. Yeah.
You're in charge, but I still need you to say the order to make it official. But I'm still going to go do that. I'm still going to have my guys do this atrocity shit. Yeah. And then they go into there's a sniper. They had a couple of them, because from the snipers over his shoulder through his across his POV, you can see there's another guy 90 or so degrees around the perimeter there. Dude, but the best part, because they're scumbag shadow ops, is they shoot one of their own guys.
Yeah, exactly. Is exactly how you're supposed to trigger it off. Right. They're trying to give you a little red herring where he's going through the crowd like he's trying to pick somebody. I knew he was going straight for his own guy and shoot him in the head.
I thought they were going to shoot the sergeant. I thought they were going to shoot the sergeant. That way all the other boys would panic and just go ape. But he panicked and had them go ape anyway. And then he shot the poor bastard up on the monument holding the flag. Like, dude, it's a giant flag. Shoot him.
Because he was worried about him at the beginning, because he was always he saw that the bolt came from an elevated position, so that was his first initial. Like, if they have the high ground, we learned from Obi-Wan, you're gonna have a better chance of winning.
So it all falls apart from there, because he's like, he tells his guys, "Man down, get him the fuck out of here, open fire." It's like a 1 second beat. It's like, get him out, open fire. And then they just start shooting people in front of the barricades. And then I'm like, okay, it's not quite the emotional punch of Order 66, but it's like brutal in how it pops off. It was rough.
And then I love Daedra at this point. She's like, make sure Cyril doesn't leave the building. He's already out in the crowd.
Oh, dude, like, he's already out there.
Already out there. And that's the part about him. So everyone starts shooting, even some of the Gormans who had weapons.
Oh yeah, and the actual rebels are in the house.
Yeah, and someone said that. He's like, they have weapons. He's like, we're counting on it.
Well, dude, it's Daedra in the last conversation of Partagast, where like, we're done with the stories now. Like, we need them to have guns, because we actually need them to fire back a couple times. So
that's where it was. Yeah,
stormtroopers go ham. And then stormtroopers went ham, dude. Like, they were just gunning folks down.
I'd have to say some of those Gormans shot pretty well too. They put a hurting on them. They put some hurting on them.
There were stormtrooper bodies down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, stormtroopers. That whole initial the riot shield people. They were all dead. The sergeant, all of them. They were all dead.
Yeah, they were toast. And I mean, the civilians get out of the square. Like, they must have gotten through that initial barricade of troopers guarding. They were on like the south gates. Maybe the Empire gave them an out, because they only were ever talking about like South Point 1 or whatever they called it. So maybe there's probably another way out.
But they had troopers out there to kind of corral them. They wanted the massacre.
Yeah, dude, 100%. They needed to stomp down the insurrection. They even used the word insurrection like 6 times, and like with the media report. And I'm like, again, it's an insurrection, but only in this case they actually did shoot armed insurrectionists that had guns.
Yeah,
can't really be an insurrection if one side's unarmed.
Just saying.
It was awesome insurrection if we took over with no guns. Anyway. But
the greatest insurrection of all time.
This is the greatest insurrection of all time. But so when I texted you, I just want to clear up something that I texted you the other night when I said scapegoat. I thought when they brought Cyril in to see Daedra and they put him in the side room, I thought somehow they were setting him up as the fall guy, that it was going to be his fault and that they were going to have to kill him. My brain just went down like the rabbit hole, because it would be typical for this character, right? That he only really had the 2 outs. The one I'm brainstorming and like headcanoning and what happened, and we'll get to that in a minute. Because remember, he started as a corporate security guy.
Yeah,
got a job with the Empire, believes in law and order and objective truth and doing the right thing and all this other crap. Wanted to bring Andor in, because of his riot insurrection on Ferrix and everything else. Imagine if he was the a-hole the Empire executed for insurrection because he was a mole they planted.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate backstab. I thought that was coming. Didn't though. So they went the other way.
The shot that got me is that they show him in the crowd while all the shots are flying around, and he did not get hit. He's just standing there looking around in circles.
He was one with the
It
force.
was a great
the
shot.
Force was with him.
Yeah, it was a great wraparound. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's PTSD. He's Tom Hanks on the beach in Saving Private Ryan in that one slow-mo shot, like when he starts to twitch.
Yeah.
That was him.
It was him back on Felix.
Yep. Pretty much.
In episode 3 of season 1. Go back and check that out.
It's a good game. It's a good show. Good review. These guys did a good review on it. You've probably heard of them.
But here's the thing. They didn't expect as much resistance as they did get. So then they had, and we saw this a little bit when they were bringing people in and like having them go into like special rooms and stuff. Yeah. And they were just sitting there and I'm like, they're not protocol droids. Why are they sitting there? And then they're like, release them.
Yeah,
and the doors open, and then out comes those droids, and there was nothing stopping them. Yeah, they were straight
like the Terminators.
Yeah, they were straight yeeting people left, yeeting people right, yeeting people into walls.
Dude, the first one shows up and kicks a barricade through like 2 people, and those 2 ragdolled like a PS2 game graphics. It was crazy.
Yeah,
and like one of them picked one of them up and just threw her, not even into the wall. He just threw her, and she died like on impact, hit her head or something.
That was
Enza. That was Enza.
Yeah, that was no, it wasn't the daughter. It was the other one, her friend.
No. The other one got shot. The brunette got shot when she was up against the column.
That's his daughter.
Long-haired dude's girlfriend. No. Enza's his daughter.
I thought it was the other way around.
The one that slapped Cyril at the beginning is his daughter because she's the one that's like, "You want change, but we don't do anything." He's like, "You're getting baited into a fight." That was her. She's the one that 100% got thrown by the droid. 100%. But the other brunette, to your point, dies too. She takes a random blaster bolt, and that's when long-haired dude yells something in his language. It's just like bah, 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 and just lets it go. Some of them dudes came to shoot. All I'm saying, they definitely did.
They definitely did.
Dude, that massacre went on. That scene goes on for like 15 minutes of just escalating points of danger at all the different places, and it culminates, of course. Andor finally has the bead drawn. He finally has the shot on Daedra. And finally, the Andor has a shot on Daedra.
Here comes Cyril.
No, he didn't though, because fucking Cyril saves this cold-hearted bitch again. Tell me about that fight, because I thought that was a good fight.
It was the most cold-hearted thing that we get to in this fight. Like, Cyril knows who he is. Susie saw him, and like,
tell me about the fight. Tell me about the fight.
No, I'm tying the whole thing together.
Okay,
like,
all right.
You have them passing each other like through these 2 episodes. Like, one would walk this way, and the other one would come right behind them, and they'll just miss each other. And then Cyril sees him and charges. Like straight football tackles him into like a blown up store as it is. And this was right after the grenade went off in the hotel that blew up a whole bunch of stormtroopers too. From the bellhop, he threw it out there.
Bellhop, now desk guy. Yep.
So them and like there was a solid fight between the 2 of them. Like he was throwing haymakers, and the other was throwing like good night Susie punches. Like they were going at it, and then like
there was a vase broken on a head. There was everything.
It was a brutal fight, and then you have Andor sitting there, and he's like, and he just looks at him. He's like, "Who are you?" And just the look of hurt on Cyril's face is like, "This is the man who ruined my life." And you don't even know who I am.
It was just Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep. Dude, he gets that broken look on his face, and he's actually lowering his gun. Like, he's like, the fuck has this all been for? And then...
to the head.
And who shot him?
It was the old guy who he threw in the street earlier.
Yep.
He didn't even answer who he was, too. I was like, his coat... Just... the way he reacted to that. Oh, and I was saying it's also the title of the episode is when you said it. It was like, who are you? And that's even the title of the episode. That's how cold-hearted it was. They had to name the episode after that line because it was perfect. The other point you want to point out in this is watching Andor through this whole thing where he keeps trying to get the shot. Like he peeks over, he lines it up, and then like she would move, and then he comes back. And like hides again. And then he's trying to talk to Will. And the best part, I was there laughing. They're just talking. And he's like, I'm over here. And then Will goes, what did you say? And you just hear, find me. I'm like, fine. Yeah, just find you. Okay, that's what you said.
That's what I'll do. Dude, I immediately thought of Ned Stark when Cyril died. Immediately. Because it's like, here's a character that had an arc. He was on a mission. There was something he had to do that he had to finish. He had to stay alive long enough to expose the conspiracy and prove who, Joffrey's real father is, and this, that, and the other thing, all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's dead. Like, he's dead. There's no picking up that thread. No one else is going to do it. That's just how it goes. Dude, that's Cyril in a nutshell, man. It's like he had this whole line of things that needed to be done, but he got played so well by his own side that it put him in a spot where he thought he once again saved the day, and he takes a random blaster shot to the face by somebody who, if he had just stayed on his career path, like, he'd have never met that old guy. If he had never met Daedra, like, he wouldn't have been sent to GHORMAN. He'd have just been weights and measures guy on Coruscant.
Yep.
But it's just over. So, like, we're done with his mom, thankfully.
Yeah, Daedra had a great line in that too. She was like, "You were complicit." She's like, "You didn't complain about the promotions."
She tried, because that conversation goes through levels of her basically pleading with him about how this is all going to work out. It's all going to work out. It's going to be okay. Oh, you didn't mind the promotions, and he's just like, all right, see ya. Good luck. And like, so obviously it did not affect him, like, in the slightest. So I thought that was all really good. And then her resolution to, like, the massacre and everything when she's in private, she breaks down, her hands twitching. She's got to, like, hold her wrist and, like, pin it to her waist because she's falling apart. And then we get her tugging the shirt straight, like, aggressively.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, this chick is falling apart. But finally, like, when you're a competent actor and your job is to be stone for like a season and a half, when you have those breaking points, like in the first season, where the riot goes down, she finally looks afraid and has something besides RBF. You're like, oh, good. She can actually emote.
Yeah.
Grand. Same thing happened here when Cyril went hands on. Terror. And then at the end, when the aftermath of, like, what actually happens went down, remorse, regret.
Yeah. She was probably in there for a while, but I think there was great cuts of her, like, crying and then trying to straighten up, and then her, this is my job. This is my job. And straighten her uniform, and, like, no matter how much she straightens the uniform, it's not going to be
right. Well, they had a great little bit of like peeking ahead at that anyway, where she's talking to Partagast in one of their conversations, and she's starting to get going a little bit, and he's like, "You seem animated," and she literally steps back and, like, squares up. You know what I mean?
You seem emotional.
Yep. He said one of those. I don't remember which one he said.
No, it was in both of them. There was two of them. There were she had different times, and he had to correct her on both times.
So you can see her starting to fall apart in sections, which I thought made for which was good stuff. I'm just checking the notes for the end here. Daedra's finally breaking. Cyril looks lost in the crowd. Then the ending happened.
So I do want to give them props as that you don't have the Saving Private Ryan moment where when they kill the girl, where he just tosses her, like, they're there shooting him and it's going off them. They didn't have that one bullet or that lucky shot that takes one down. No, they're just straight destructing machine. And then you have a second shot, like the same thing with Andor, and he starts shooting one, getting his attention. And then Will stops running because they're trying to get out of there, and he sees what he's doing. So he stops, and they both start shooting, and, like, nothing's happening. Like, that bad boy's, I'm coming to kill you. Your blaster shots mean nothing to me.
Terminator, 100%.
And then all of a sudden that bus comes through. There was the troop transport that brought in the young guys that just slams him into the wall, cuts him in half, and you see the lights go out.
Mm-hmm. And you saw who was driving too, right?
Yeah, dude who brought a blaster to a knife fight
and got sent to killed. So I mean, I guess it's a good thing they kept him on staff then, because otherwise, you wouldn't have Alan Tudyk in the show,
which was
Andor be dead.
Yeah, and which is the point is that they got the Andor droid from Road One from this. He's like, hey, one more favor. Help me load this up.
Load that shit up. Yeah, I thought that was a good way. That was as good a way to get it.
Because Will,
that characters you could get.
Yeah, because Will's like, I gotta stay because she's still here. And then you find out that she didn't die. She's on the radio. He just down there and like, we gotta tell everybody what happened. And they start broadcasting on every channel.
Dude, now see, does that even? I mean, we know the Empire can jam comms and jam, like, like long range space communication, things like that. So radio GHORMAN, how do they even get that message out? Like, we know the Imperials are in orbit dropping mining gear. Like, they just didn't have like the communication blockade going.
They might just hoping that they could find a frequency they're not jamming, because sometimes when you're jamming a frequency, that's why they kept scanning and changing it and going to the next one. And then of course they didn't want anyone to get off the planet during this time to tell the true story. And that's what Andor was so important, to get off the planet.
Right. Yeah, but I love that broadcast. Again, it felt right out of like a World War II film of just like, is there anybody that can help us? We're getting slaughtered down here. It's not that like we didn't do it. The Empire lit this fire and led us right into it. Can't anybody save us? And they cut back right as she's saying that to Andor driving away in whatever vehicle with the vehicle with the droid.
Yeah,
the single just giant fat gob of a tear, and I'm like, is this him completely committing to the rebellion at this point, or is that his breaking point for I've seen enough? Because we see in episode 9,
I think that's his broken point. I think that's his breaking point. Like he's done enough.
Yeah, like he's seen enough civilians dead in the streets and shit. But that was a particularly moving scene of her, like when Will gets down there. She's like, yeah, I'm not leaving. Take this and help me. Like, we have to literally tell everybody what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, and it must have worked because, the whole point of episode 9 that we'll get to is Mon Mothma having heard stories and corroborating information that happened, by the report she got. So it was convincing enough for her.
Yeah.
So, dude, I don't even need you to bring up the flavor guide. You can do it for reference, but it's, you can bring it up if you want. It's an easy 10. Easy 10.
Oh, 10 for you? I would go 9. I'd go 9.
Easy 10, dude. Enough compelling human suffering, and the tension build alone from the minute Andor tells them they're barricading their office. They're not just giving you your monument back because you won, because it was basically a victory parade for like 10 minutes. People filing in, and I'm like, nope, that first TIE fighter. I'm like, no, you didn't win anything here. You're boned. You're gonna fire a shot and get yourself massacred. To their credit, they didn't, and the way they subverted it with the national anthem, I thought it was pretty good. I'll give them all 10 on this one. I'll never give a show another 10. I'll give this a 10. It was that good, especially because it tied in the real life, ambiguous political stuff with like propaganda, misinformation, insurrection, state actors,
and which is like any news organization, every country.
Right.
I mean, like if you read that's why I read all sorts of different news sources. Like I would go to and read Al Jazeera, which according to them, there are no more people living in Gaza by their total count.
Then I shouldn't get any videos from there ever again, but I do every day.
Yeah, like their total count, like just every day, another 50 to 700 die in Gaza, and I'm like, at this rate, you have no one left living there.
It just started with X. Yeah, exactly. So where was your final number on that?
I was on 9.
Okay, so the pretty banging episode. I'll ask you the question that I kind of opened with for myself at the beginning: is this the best they've done with this show? And Escalator, is this the best Disney Star Wars has ever done?
I would have to throw this with the Battle of Felix, the last episode of season 1.
That was pretty good.
That was really good too. Like the birth of rebellion.
Yeah, the fire rises. Yeah, I could see that. Cool. All right, let's get out of here. We got one more. All right, King Z. One more to go until next week's 4th final chapter of Andor season 2. Episode. What's it going to be? 10, 11, and 12 next week. Right?
Yep. 10, 11,
so we got
and 12 next week.
Episode 9, the only title that I remember is the only one that matters, isn't it? Welcome to the Rebellion.
Welcome to the Rebellion.
And it makes perfect sense for what it is, because this is the fallout of everything that happened last week in real time, maybe even like minutes later, hours later, the next morning. I don't know. It seems like it's like a situation developing like how it would develop in our real modern day news cycle, where it opens on the political fallout of the very human atrocity that happened on GHORMAN. Mm-hmm. It opens with Mon and Bail Organa in the Senate. They're having a little chat about how ugly and horrible things are going and this and that. And boom, GHORMAN senator getting arrested, and lots of ADR lines in the background are like, stormtroopers in the Senate, unheard of. And there's a lot of outcry now. Like people are upset that this is popping off. And dude, that senator has a banger line as they take him away. He's like, it's my people today. Tomorrow it could be any of you. And if that doesn't chill your blood, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, they were all, you hear the outrage, like, you don't arrest a senator, they're arresting a senator.
No warrant, no charges, they even said.
Yep. And then when you get to the Senate scene later, it's like none of that actually matters to the senators.
Dude, that was the most depressing part, because I had shades of Natalie Portman being like, so this is how liberty dies. Thunderous applause.
Yeah.
You know, as Palpatine gets promoted there, where it's like, again, you get the media in this wholesale telling you what the Empire wants you to know. You know, we're sending home, you know, the first group of our Imperial heroes that fell in the streets at the hands of a savage GHORMAN insurrection. I'm like, again, they're literally saying all the same shit. And then you can see it. They had a couple of senators, and I thought this was slick. A couple of senators that were supporting the Empire weren't human. They weren't human, right?
One was.
And I'm like, was there one that was? I remember the owl-looking dude, and then
it was the guy who was like, one of my citizens died that day in GHORMAN because of these insurrections.
Oh, okay, then retract my point then, which was going to be, I'll just throw it out there as because we talk about writing stuff sometimes and how to avoid being on the nose. I thought it was smart using at least one of the senators not being human. That way you avoid those accusations of, well, of course it was the white guy that, you know, was backing the Empire kind of thing. If you use a bunch of aliens that aren't human, that aren't black, white, indigenous, not indigenous, male, female, then you're like, oh, this is just who said it. It's not you, King Z, you know. But all right, they had the fat white guy do it. Okay, whatever.
Yep, there's a fat white guy.
Damn it, always us. But it was still everything. I've never been a big fan of like the politics in Star Wars, like within the Senate, because it gets a little C-SPAN-y sometimes. But damn if this show doesn't get it right, because they're building tension all around it.
Yeah.
You know, so it is gripping to watch. And there's a couple of angles here. We got Mon needs to make the big speech and then be like extracted. Like she needs an out.
Yeah, because I know she will be arrested.
100%.
Yeah.
And then the other half, and then there's like mini beats where it's like, when she gets going and she's underway with the speech, you know, they order for the power to be cut, but like there was rebels on the inside that got the door locked, and the guy trying to shut it off is like, this shit hasn't been locked all year. And the girl's like, oh, no, we fixed it.
We fixed it.
We fixed it, right?
It's upstairs.
Upstairs. And that dude, they gave that guy 3 speaking lines and flop sweat, and he nailed it. Yeah. That dude looked terrified that he had to get that door open. Sold it.
Yeah, the ISB agent worked in there. Like, he was straight from Clerks. Like, I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Dude, it's in the notes. It's in the notes, that poor guy. Dude, when he enters the frame, he's like clocking out for the day, eating a donut or something. Like, he's going home. And it's like, dude, I'm not even supposed to be here today. Totally him. Totally him, man. But one of the cool things in episode 9, we get back into like spycraft mode.
Yep,
and
lots of spycraft in this one.
Right. They mention that that they know, or actually no, I think it's Bale mentions to Mon that one of the other senators found a listening device in their office.
Yep.
Little setup foreshadow there. And then Mon has her guy who she doesn't know is working for Luthen, which was a nice little bit of twist, right?
Yeah.
They start scanning the office and they find one. They find one under her desk. And I have it in the notes. And like any scrub that doesn't know anything, she breaks it.
Yeah.
Well, when you break the bug, they know, because they no longer have data coming in. They no longer have comms, right? And I'm like, oh, why'd you break it? You should have just been like, oh, okay, Jimmy, let's just go get some lunch on the promenade and then go talk outside. But no, she grabs an ashtray or some shit and just splits it in half. And then I want to get your take on this as a guy that knows some military stuff, of course. I love seeing the inside of the command center of the ISB. I'm just going to call it the listening room. It's just terminals. And each one of these people is looking at a grid that has like 12 listening devices. And all they're doing is making sure they're all green. So they're listening to everything, dude. That room is huge. There were dozens of people just manning monitors. And Pit Boss is walking around. And then Clerks guy coming in and being like, ah, crap, I'll be here until Jackson gets here at 5 or whatever he said. But dude, this show is full of those kind of characters. Full of them, right? Remember the 2 other, like the junior scrubs at the ISB, where the one guy was cramming sunshine up Partaghast's ass. He was like, thank you, sir, it's an honor. And Partaghast like, It's an assignment.
I meant
pump the brakes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just lots of those little nobody characters. And Edie's the only one I don't like. I just don't like her. But the rest of them nail what they do. The same thing with the guy that had to unlock the door. He's there for 10 seconds, but I'm like, oh man, that dude's going to get hung.
What do I have to do to get the broadcast cut here?
No, like, and that's it. And it's so, they're doing that intercut with like Mon giving the speech, which was all good. But before we even get to that, we get new Bail Organa, because it's not Jimmy Smits anymore. It's Benjamin Bratt. Pretty good. If you're going to recast, I mean, this proves recast work.
Yeah. I actually mistaken him for Lou Diamond Phillips, but look at the picture.
Not LDP.
You could see a little similarity there. Because I'm like, that's not Jimmy Smits. Jimmy Smits.
No, it's not Jimmy Smits, of course. It's not Jimmy Smits. Dude, Benjamin Bratt's like 6'7" or some shit. He's tall. Right? But again, he fits in a good senator role, and I like that. But, you know, his character's got some backbone to it, where he's telling Monch, like, listen, you got to make that speech. You got to get the F out of Dodge, because they're coming for you next. And she's like, what about you? You like, where are you going to go? And he's like, I'm staying.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, he knows. Like, if I leave, we have nothing here. I have to stay.
Yeah. And then he was like, I have a team that can extract you and get you to Yavin.
Right.
And I think more in that he's telling her that she needs to be at Yavin because she needs to take control there and, you know, make sure things are going to run. She needs to be the command structure boots on ground, other than the lower level commanders. I think it was
the base commander. It was either Dodoma or something. There were two guys that get referenced there as being like in charge of the guys that are pissed at Andor for not falling in line. And one of them is the dude from Rogue One, the guy that actually tells him you can't leave. Yeah. But we've done 2 episodes of this show tonight with no nitpicks almost at all that I can remember, right? Through 7 and 8. I have one for this episode. Bail Organa's closing remarks to her. You remember what he said? And Mon grabs her by the wrist as she's walking away. Bail Organa gives her a special directive when she goes.
Oh, make sure the speech is good or something like that.
No, nobody said. Should have said that. Nobody said. Tear the shit out of that place.
Oh yeah, what? Yeah. What? Dropping profanity in a Star Wars world doesn't. Dude,
but Star Wars has profanity.
Not like really.
It's in the book. It's not in the movies. I'm saying they have their own words for it.
Yeah.
Frack. How Battlestar has frack. Right? Yeah. They have like Freck and Frell, I think, are what Star Wars uses, which would have sounded stupid. So you're right. I think like any profanity from him at all would have been dumb, you know. But like if it's a Han Solo calling somebody a son of a bitch or something like that works. He's a smuggler. I'm with that. But like him being like tear the shit out of that place, I'm like, you're a 1%er, dude. You've been a senator for like 20 years. You don't talk like that. You also don't dance at raves at weddings either, but still.
Yeah, he's also like the king of his planet as well. Because I mean, Leia's a princess.
Yep. Saying. It instantly pulled me out of play because the scene was good between them with like the tension of like the Emperor's out of his mind. Like this is some like real danger shit. And the minute you inject real, like literal verbatim verbal real life into it, I'm like, oh man. Like, why'd you say that? You should have just said like, dude, just I mean, what do you been even know? Like maybe say like bring down the house. Like what?
Yeah, that doesn't even
say
it was one of the things I was struggling with my book, and you've even like when I was using some of the modern military lingo in mine. Yeah, it takes you out of the.
This is what I meant. Do you see what I'm saying now? You know, you just have to be careful, and it's like it doesn't ruin the episode by any shot, but it's like it's like when you're camping, right? And you take like a little bit of a beer or a little bit of a water, and you just kind of flick it on the fire a little bit, it just sizzles. Yeah. Like it just dims it just for a minute, and then you're right back to if you're good, you're good. You know, and this episode is great for in all the different ways that these episodes have been. It's not a brutal atrocity like episode 8. You know, it's resolution. It's like the coming down beats of what happened. When we talk about character beats and relationships in this show, another great realization for the character they're building, because this is Mon's episode, pretty much. Like this is all about her until Andor at the end. She meets Luthen. This is our first Luthen appearance of this block of shows. Meets her in the streets, they have a little chatty chat about, it's getting kind of hot in there. We're going to probably need to get you to go. And I'm sending a guy I trust. And then she points out, I might be a little liability to you, huh? Yeah. You remember my friend? Guy I haven't seen like 2 years now because you threw him out of a hovercraft.
Childhood friend.
Dude's a banker, philanthropist, billionaire. He was basically the Tony Stark list of accolades, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, it occurs to me that you could have me killed at any second. And he's like, yeah, no, I got a guy. He's going to get you out. And he's like, the password is I have friends everywhere. But the way he says it the second time, he's like, remember, I have friends everywhere.
Everywhere.
That's a threat. That's not the password. Like, he was not reminding her that was a password. It was like, don't fuck me.
Yeah, because he was aware that Bale's people are infiltrated. They are corrupt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it sets up again. I like when there's multiple levels of like tick-tocking clocks that are about to explode. So it's like, all right, now you're on the clock with Luthen. Like, you have to be useful and you have to not, flip if you get arrested, all that stuff. But also, assuming you get not arrested, which one of these teams can you trust? And, of course, you can trust Andor for now. I mean, he did shoot the unarmed guy at the beginning of Rogue One, but still.
He was slowing him down.
Slowing him down, couldn't climb out. We're like, all right, well, I mean,
I can't have you telling anyone what I look like.
It's true. It's true. I mean, you could just have, dude, maybe that's the guy. No, because he already shot the guy that knew what Bix looked like. That's what it was. Where are we at there? They did that. They did that. Let's just go right into the speech, because I think the getting into the speech is kind of the biggest thing. Is we hear over the PA system that basically that the agenda is spoken for. We're not going to bring up any new issues. It's all very tightly controlled.
Yeah.
The senior senators have this at hand. We're not going to bring up any new issues. We're not going to talk about GHORMAN, is the short of it.
Well, they're talking about GHORMAN. They're not going to let anyone object. They have their people that are going to support.
He says, we will not yield the floor to opposition or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because it's anti-imperial and, they're the bad insurrection and this and that. So they very cleverly, they did it kind of quick, minor nitpick. But, she's like, I have to believe that, Bale's going to get me an opportunity to speak. I'll go practice the speech. You figure out how I'm going to get on there. And then he quotes parliamentary procedure handed down by the Empire, which is the best part. I thought that was the best part. He didn't have to break any rules. He used their own red tape, much like how we do in real life, incidentally. We use their own red tape to get objectives done. So he yields the floor because she's a senior senator that has the right to address emergent situations or something like that as defined by the Empire. And the Empire already declared the situation on GHORMAN an emergency in their own words. So there we go. Sorry, I'll let you handle the speech part of the breakdown. Go and get at it.
So she comes out there in her hover speech. And I don't know what turning their light off means. Is it like they disagree or something like that?
Well, isn't that just like you're out of time thing? Or do you mean each individual pod shuts the light off?
Each individual pod. Yeah, there was 2 that turned off in the background, unless they recycled something like during a vote or something for the background.
I don't know.
Video.
I have to go back and check. Okay, good thing for me to look for.
So she comes out and she starts giving her speech, and she's talking about what's good, what's right, and that when you're fighting monsters, you got to use everything you have. And in this case, and in GHORMAN, like this is when the ISBs die. Like, we need to cut the feed to the Senate room, and that's where all that came in that we talked about earlier.
It was
and
good.
She gets down there, and then right as she says her big punchline, and the monster in this case is Emperor Palpatine, and then there's like,
yep, but she got it out.
And then her pod comes back. She steps out. So there was a setup. What comes up next is when Andor gets there, is that he's talking to Luthen. And he's like, Luthen's like, you need to get out of here. The heat's coming down on you. Like, Andor's still looking out for Luthen. He's like, there'll be no Yavin for me.
Yeah.
And he's like, but you need to get her to Yavin. You need to extract her. She's going to be with these people. And that kind of was the whole conversation there. The big point I want to point out was that Luthen said there will be no Yavin for me. So I believe in the next chapters the next chapter, the next 3 episodes, whatever you want to call it, Luthen is going to sacrifice himself somehow to make sure the rebellion moves on. And I'm still on pace for my prediction that the last episode slides right into Rogue One, kind of like Rogue One slide right into A New Hope.
Yep, for sure. I think it's going a different way for Luthen. I think he's going to get his ass captured, and Andor going to have to shoot him. That's what I think's going down there. I think this is a cold-blooded, bleak enough show, and Luthen will probably tell him to do it.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing. He'd be like, if they torture me, like no one's impervious to torture in this world. Like, it's not a question of how tough you are. They have the ability to break you.
That's in real life too. The question isn't if you'll break. The question is when you'll break.
That's this isn't a Jack Reacher situation. This isn't like Halo Spartan situation. Like, no, this is they play it for real here, as grounded as they can for what it is. So I think that's my prediction there. I just wanted to talk about Mon's speech for a couple seconds because again, there's some banger lines in this speech, right? Where she says, and I quote, "The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil." That's badass. Right? That's just one line. Here's another one, right? I think this is the one where you were talking about here. When truth leaves, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams loudest. Yeah. Also a banger line. And I thought there was a third one, but maybe I don't have it right here. Oh no, just that she name drops Palpatine as the monster we face today. Emperor Palpatine, and the statement goes up. But I love that she's leading up to. She has another line. I swear she does, dude. Oh yeah, here it is. There's a couple. The distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss.
Yeah.
Ouch. Right, and then the final badass line. Dude, this is all in one speech, which makes it great.
Yeah.
The loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous loss. Like, based AF. Like, honestly, this entire speech is like a referendum on like the reality of the Western world in real life over like the last 5 to 8 years. Where like no word has, it's 1984 here. No word has a meaning that's objective. It can mean anything you want it to mean. Math doesn't math anymore the right way if you don't feel the right way about it. Identify as whatever you want. There's nothing objective. And she's conclusively telling you under oath, all this bad shit that's about to happen, that has happened, is because we've sacrificed these ideals. So, Andor secretly based. I'll just say it. Hot take or not. But she makes her speech. She chooses to go with Andor. They have a great little showdown with Bail's corrupted team. One of his operatives already killed one of the other ones, like the ISB insider. She meets a fun end because Andor's just not above shooting people in this episode that are in the way.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get out. He's like, wow. It's like Han Solo, one hand up.
Yeah. ISB, this is an approver arrest. He's like,
right. But he had help because her former assistant grabs up the other guy's gun and he's like, she's a rebel.
Yeah.
And everybody screams and then Andor shoots her.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. And they pull kind of like the same gag on her limo driver outside. Like, this poor bastard got out of the car.
Worst ISB agent ever.
Ever, right? Cloris. Leaves the car. It's way over here. Walks all the way down here. 90 steps up. Walks halfway down the concourse. And Andor's like, hey, isn't that your driver?
No, yes. Like, what's your driver's name? And he's like, Cloris. Right. He's like, can we trust him? He's like, no, he's an ISB plant. Right. Is that okay? He's like, Cloris, I got her. And he's like, oh, and
guns him down, walks over his body, steals his car, drives it like it's Fast and Furious because she's in the back seat, like braced into like the ceiling and the door panel. Right. Yeah. So they extract. He gets her over to the safe house. It's where him and Bix were staying earlier in the season. I thought that was a nice little, not a major touch of anything, but it kind of just brought it all full circle. They're on their way to Yavin, and then this is where, if I have to nitpick this episode, I don't like where this ended up. It didn't hit for me really. Like, Mon's there. We already see that the Rebel Alliance plays politics. That Andor brought her back. It has to be Gold Squadron. We're not going to log this flight back in. It's all going to be very secret, so we can give legitimacy to the rebel cause. Like, we have power. We brought her out in one piece. So I get why they do it. It makes sense, but it's like it should stick a thorn in Andor's side of wanting to be there, And then just how it leaves out with Bix. I don't know. Give me your takes on all that stuff in the end of the episode, and then I'll go after that.
So one of the things I wanted to point out was how well Mon Mothma handled this, because they didn't make her a screaming victim. Like when he first shoots her, she's like, "You just killed her!" Like shocked. That's what's supposed to happen. But later, she's not screaming or "I can't believe you did that" and all that stuff. And then when she kills the driver, she's just quiet because she realizes this is the world I live in now. This is my new reality. And so
I think she had one moment when they were in the safe house, which was like, "I'm not sure I can do this." But then Andor reassured her somehow. I'm a little fuzzy on it, but she only said it once. You're right. She wasn't like pathetic, but she also didn't pick up a blaster and shoot 97 stormtroopers on the way out either.
No, and she doesn't need to. But the point is she needs to become who she is in New Hope. She's not there yet. She's not the Mon Mothma that sent the X-Wings to destroy the Death Star. She has to still grow into that, and you see that, and that's why I think the dance scene from Episode 3 was so important, because she couldn't handle doing what needed to be done, so she had to get drunk and dance the night away. Now, and she has to make this progression through this story to become the Mon Mothma she needs to become, fill her full potential as a leader of the rebellion.
A fair point. That's a fair point. I think if I had to rebut, I think that the whole wedding scene, like the entire wedding, which is called the subplot, it just went on too long. So if all of the wedding stuff wasn't as overly complicated and drawn out, the dance part would have been okay if it was just maybe a little bit shorter and with different music. I think there's something about the music that cooked it for me. It didn't work. But how you laid out the logic of it makes perfect sense. Is she's overwhelmed and didn't know what to do, couldn't make a decision on Tay. So Luthen had to throw him out of a car.
Yeah.
Because getting to a meeting next Wednesday wasn't good enough.
And I think
now.
I think that's what the Luthen speech was pretty much happened, that she's going to become the new face of the rebellion because he can't. And he has to work the way he works because he can't control everything and he has to let go. So Luthen is getting overwhelmed and letting things go to the people who need to move into those positions. That was the point I was trying to get to in this one, was the conversation between him and Andor, where he's like, "You were there. You were at
Ferrix.
You were Ferrix. You were at the heist." He's like, "Somehow you're always there." And he leans back like, "Are you a plant? Because somehow you've worked your way into all of these major events that led to the birth of the rebellion."
I didn't see, you know what? I didn't read it that way. I read it almost completely the opposite way. Check this out. I thought that was him catching Andor in a weak moment and reminding him that every time I have needed you, you've been there and we've been successful. So I didn't get the paranoia out of that. I got that being Luthen was reading Andor starting to falter and needing to remind him that maybe, dude, you got some plot armor here and that you're not just lucky. Because he mentions to Bix at one point, "All I have is luck. There's nothing special about me." But Luthen's pointing out to him like, "Dude, actually, you just survive and get shit done." That's a great take on you, though. That's awesome. I didn't see that at all. But you're right, dude. He did step back. He did.
He stepped back and he took a good look at him.
Yeah, you might be right. It'd be interesting to see where they end up then in the next 3 episodes for sure. But let's get into the last bit here. So he gets home to Bix. They have the big husband and wife, "I'm home, I'm out, we can go do some stuff" scene. They go to bed.
He brings Will back because Will was in that apartment as well, injured from what happened on GHORMAN.
He gets with medevac, right? But the important part clearly is when Andor wakes up in the morning, Bix is gone.
Yeah.
And she ain't just gone to the store. Like, she's gone. And she left him a little love letter. You could talk about the love letter.
Yeah, she left a video recording. And like, he was catching on something was a little bit different that night. He's like, "You're not saying anything." 100%. And she's like, "I'm listening." Right. Like, and I mean, guys need that from, like, they need someone to listen to them. And that's one of the great things I have in my relationship. She listens to me even when I'm talking about stuff she doesn't care about. She'll let me listen and just ran on, and she'll nod her head. And especially when I'm rambling on about the NFL or WWE.
Good people.
Yeah,
for sure.
So she talks about like she's got to go because she's standing in the way of what he needs to become. There's a reason why he's there. And he's like, you are right where you need to be. She's like, I'm going to disappear. And I was talking about this. I'm like, what's going to happen a bit? She's, I know she's gone. And he's like been out of the relationship for a while because he has that moment with Jen during Road One, and they die kissing. So if you haven't seen Road One, everybody dies.
Holding each other. Were they kissing, or were they just in an embrace when the blast?
No, they were kissing.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty poetic. You're good call on that. But what do you think of her motivation for leaving, though? I got to get your take on that before I kind of claw that a little.
You have this type of Dear John letter all the time from in especially movies and TV shows where you have someone who's super successful, but he doesn't see it. Everyone else sees it, but he needs that catalyst that's trying to push him forward and push him towards his potential. And if it's like you're always coming back to your girlfriend because you don't want to leave her, you have that separation anxiety, or you have that one job that you just can't leave because you're tied there. And I mean, this played off great in Two Guys, a Girl on a Pizza Place, where Ryan Reynolds' character in that wouldn't want to leave the pizza place, but he's really good at the stock market. And like they're offering him a job, but he doesn't want to leave where he's comfortable. You got to move out of your comfort zone to do anything great. That pulls to life anyone. If you 100%. Want to be great, you have to move out of what makes you comfortable. You have to get used to being uncomfortable. And that's what Bits was to him. Bits was that familiar face from home that made him comfortable, and he had to get into the uncomfortable.
Everything you just said is 100% accurate. I hate it. I hate it all. I hate it in this very specific case because she made that decision after he told her, I'm out and done. So for her to make that decision, I find it's a risky decision for her because there's no guarantee that he stays just because she goes. Like, he might have just woken up the next day and been like, I'm still out. I'm still out of here. Like, okay, like, cool. I guess I have to go find another space chick, you know? And you can make the counter argument that, you know, she knew him well enough to know that was the thing to do, of course. But at first go around, I'm like, he literally told you 8 hours ago, we're leaving in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, he was ready to wake up and pack and get the F out.
The one thing he said is that he never said that he was tired of the fighting. He never said he was tired of the calls. He never said he was tired of doing what he was doing. He says, I'm giving it up for you. I want this.
Fair. That's true. That's verbatim what he said. That's fair. I forgot about that. Good point. So yeah, so she's out of the picture now. I wonder if she comes back for chapter 4, like, you know, maybe Daedra, knowing that Andor was on GHORMAN or something, puts out the search for her to draw him in, and then Luthen tells him he's got to kill Bix, something.
I think she's done. I think she's done. She's out. We needed a way to write her out of the story, and I think this makes sense, which is incredibly sad. She said, when this is all over, I will come and find you.
Yeah.
And we know how his life ends.
True. So yeah, I mean, I guess that makes for another. I mean, I'm hesitant to use the word shocking, but I mean, it's unexpected. I'll say it's unexpected because you figure in a show like this that everybody gets the Cyril treatment, and his death was shocking, even though you expect some characters to die, like how Rosso died in episode 1 or 2 or whatever it was. You're like, okay, we're going to lose rebellion fighters. We should be losing ISB people too, to be honest. Like, I wish there were a couple more ranked ISB people that actually die along the way, so you can like mourn interesting characters on both sides.
I think we'll lose 2.
Who else do you think we're losing?
The mole that's in the ISB, Lucas.
Oh, dude, I forgot all about him. Yeah, that's right. So I mean, so he's ostensibly still around. Dude, that might be the reason Luthen gets captured. Who knows? Like, that'd be a great tie-in that he's still there. Who else do you think that we're going to lose?
Daedra.
Oh, you think Daedra's actually going to get it? Interesting.
Yep.
How do you think she's going to die?
That I don't know yet. I think she's still going to die. Either it's she turns and they capture her and they hang her or she becomes the fall guy for the truth getting out and they hang her.
I see that happening more than she goes rebel, because she could give AF. Dude, that's something interesting I wanted to just tell you. I don't remember where I heard it from. it was somebody mentioned, I think it was in comments somewhere on YouTube, that the actor that played Cyril was interviewed, and the interviewer asked him, you know, had your character not been shot like right away, or if you had survived the episode, do you think, given what you saw on GHORMAN, would it have made Cyril flip sides? Would he have joined the rebel cause like legitimately out of like anger and frustration, or just out of like outrage justice kind of thing? And I thought the actor had a great response. The response was, I think he'd have walked away from the whole thing having been disillusioned by everybody. And I'm like, yeah, not a bad take, because, you know, at face value, I think the low-level story option is to have him be like, fuck it, I'm rebel now. But dude, maybe just being like, you're all crazy and you're all scumbag savages. I'm out. I'm going to Ferrex 2 in the middle of nowhere, and I'm just gonna rent like a bike shop. That's it. I'm out. Yep. You know, so I just thought that was a nifty little, but it reminded me, you know, when we were singing the praises of Penguin, where like the actors are talking in those post scenes, you know, and after the credits, about character motivations and the things I was thinking about to consider how I would portray. You know, if somebody wasn't just bullshitting in the comments, and that character actor playing Cyril actually thought enough about that or had that kind of insightful answer, it kind of just goes to show why this show is more effective than the other Disney Star Wars trash that we haven't enjoyed. Like, people are actually thinking about things in the show. So I thought that was compelling.
Stuff outside of the written
right, off the page, right? Exactly right. It informs these decisions and it makes them feel more real, you know. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Daedra, how she ends. Maybe Partagas has to shoot her. That'd be sweet. I kind of like him.
Yeah, but I do like Partagas. I like the way he conducts business.
I'd love to see him interrogate Luthen. That would be dope AF.
Yeah, and their doctor's dead, so they had to go back to the old school methods. So that's why there were still the droids in A New Hope.
That whole program, renting out of a Navy building, got itself exploded. Dude, you know, that's something else that I think I'm going to nitpick on the 3-episode arc here, just stemming from last year in their world. Bix got over the drugs a little too easy. I was expecting a little bit more out of that. I thought there was an opportunity there to explore bad decision making or impulses that kind of compromise or bring danger into the rebel cause or something because of her, and they wrap
up. I think they need to put it more on camera, because all of it happened after camera. Because remember, this has been 3 years now, and
that's what I'm saying. I wanted more of that, because I think that could have been something they strung through all 9 episodes that she was in. You know, it just would have been, for me, I'm into that kind of thing, because she could have clawed her way out, or she could have gone all the way down. You know, there was an opportunity there. All right, flavor chart. Take the lead, my friend.
All right, going into the final element of chapter 3, I am going to stick with the Pitmaster. It's an 8. It's this whole chapter was really good. I know I went 7 in the first one, and then I was at 9, and now I'm at 8. So it's a perfect 7, 8, 9. So it works real well. Yeah, that's right. But it works out as a great 3 episode arc. It worked out perfectly. The Empire got what they wanted, but the Rebellion got what they wanted of it too. And they have a huge campaign recruiting slogan now to bring people in, and they're the ones, like, because Andor saw it firsthand. Will saw it firsthand. His girlfriend, who's there with him, saw it firsthand. They were there, so they could actually tell you what happened. And the vantage point that Andor had in episode 8 was that he could see the sniper that took the shot, so he saw everything. Perfect eyewitness. Now, credibility will always be called because of, you know, propagandist media, which we all know that they can make the best expert look like a fool with the proper interviewer,
or the biggest moron look like an expert.
Yep. So that's why I think this all works. I think it plays perfect into this whole second season. You know, you're always iffy going into a sequel season of a show that you love, because you wonder if they're going to bring the same heat and intensity. And I think they stepped it up a little bit.
Right, there for sure.
And and I was like Heroes season 1, great. Heroes every other season, they didn't hit.
Not a bad point.
So you're little, and I think they've lived up to the hype. I'm liking the time jumps as well. I think it tells a consistent story to get us to Rogue One. And everyone's like, "Oh, what's going to happen in season 3?" There isn't a season 3. Not going to happen. He said 2 seasons to tell the whole story, and he's doing it. So that's me.
They're not getting a season 3 on account of, I don't know if you heard how much the show cost them, but it's cost them $650 million for 2 seasons. Like, it's cost them Acolyte money to do this. At least it's all on the screen. There's a there's a lot of great stuff in the show, and it runs an hour.
Yeah, the one thing I have to argue that was 650 for 2 seasons, 24 episodes.
True. That's a good point. And so it does drive that cost down, below the 25 million, 30 million an episode nonsense that these other crappier shows get. But it's still a big cost. And they're not getting, unfortunately, they're not getting the return on views that you and I would have hoped this show got. This really does appeal to like a niche group of people. And it's a show that shows you can write original stuff in an existing sandbox without undermining, superseding, or overwriting the existing stuff. When I was growing up, I didn't need a prequel trilogy. They put it out there, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool how that all happened. I didn't need to know how the Rebel Alliance mechanically came into being. Okay, there's rebels. They have a base on Yavin. They got some ships. We're going to blow up the Death Star. That's every 8-year-old's experience when you're growing up. But Andor has literally laid the building blocks to the foundation, shown me internal workings of the Empire. It's grounded everything with awesome character work, with interesting things that are happening. Everybody acts like an adult except for that one stupid scene with Cyril and his mom where he's laying on the bed tonally. It just didn't work, 2 blocks ago. But on par, the whole show just does what it does. And it fills in that early days of the rebellion arc. And then it wisely uses those time jumps. That way I don't have to see all of their growing. Every next time we see them, they're bigger. So I can't wait to see Tuesday night how much bigger the rebellion has got. Like, I bet we see like fleets of X-Wings coming in or something. Like, there's going to be something visual to cue that by episode 12, it's literally heading into Rogue One. Like, we're stealing the plan. We heard about plans. That'll probably be how it ends, I bet. We're going to hear about that that the Empire is building a weapon. Unless that was the beginning of Rogue One.
That is the beginning of Rogue One.
Well, that makes sense then. So this could be like a hint that other people are getting, and the Bothans even, and they're delivering it to Andor to bring to whatever at Rogue One. But this episode for me, because I got sidetracked, dude, I'm going to give it an 8. I got to come down a couple of points from episode 8 because that was such a visceral gut punch that outside of the speech in this one, there's not a whole lot of things that hit as hard as that. So it's only an 8 in comparison to episode 8, which I know is a bullshit way to give it a score. But in terms of just emotional impact, I can't have it hit as high as a perfect 10. But I'll give it a Pitmaster 8. It's still a great show. I think these 3 episodes together are the best this show has done. In season 1, really, it was all about the Aldhani heist. That was the singular best episode they had. And we could pick other episodes to kind of put with it to pick our favorite 3. But this has been the best they've ever done. And episode 8 might literally be this show's Empire Strikes Back. It might be the best that Disney Star Wars has ever done. It really might be that.
That's what it just goes to show what true professionals can make when they're given the time and resources to make something. Like one thing we've talked about with other series is like they're too fast, like Daredevil Born Again. It was what, 9 episodes?
9. You're right. It was an odd number.
9 episodes. Imagine if they got 12 or the 18 that they planned.
Dude, I said that halfway through the run. I feel like when they get on these accelerated pathways, it compromises quality to the point where I wonder, if I gave you more time and money to give me 12 or 18, would you have actually done better, or would there just have been more slop? Like, that's now the catch-22 that I'm in for having that opinion.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
But we just see what Tony Gilroy did with 12 episodes and $650 million.
So, I mean, dude, seriously, give this guy and his crew $250 million to make Starfighter. Just give it to him. Or, I mean, if Sean Levy's any good, I mean, he did Deadpool and Wolverine and a couple of other things, right? So he's okay, right? But like Gilroy can't be freed up and paid to do the Rey movie. I don't even care. Have him do it. Don't have the do it. Who doesn't like Star Wars? Who doesn't know? I mean, Gilroy self-admittedly isn't a Star Wars fan, but he's on the record as saying, did a bunch of research when I got the job. So he understands it. This chick, she's never seen an episode of anything. She's never watched a movie or read a book, never played a game, never played with the toys. She doesn't know.
And one of the other things this show does real well is that it spans the Star Wars universe. You don't need Jedi. You don't need people with lightsabers. You don't need the Skywalkers. You don't need the Palpatines. Like, they're mentioned in name. Like, you don't need to see Tarkin face. CGI Tarkin face, even though they did do it in Rogue One, which is the same guy, but you don't need to see it. Just a mere mention of the name, we know exactly what you're talking about. You don't have to see Grand Admiral Thrawn if all they have to say is Thrawn, and you know who you're talking about. So you don't need to see this stuff. We don't need to keep going to desert planets. That's the other thing, is that these planets are so different and so vibrant.
It was like they're alive.
Yeah.
Dude, Rebel Moon planet, farm planet, alive.
Yeah.
Right. One of the best ones I think we've seen. When we get off world, when we get off of Coruscant, which I'm overflying cars and jets in traffic on Coruscant. Like, I'm kind of done that because the prequel trilogy kind of drilled that home, Tatooine style. But when we get to GHORMAN, it's World 2 town. You know what I mean? It's stone stairs. It's got paved streets. You know, the buildings are kind of simple.
Mon Mothma's homeworld, where they do the wedding.
Chandrilla, yep.
Yeah, Chandrilla.
That opening shot of them in the mountainside looked great.
Yeah.
You're right, dude. No, we don't need desert planets here. There was one other thing I wanted to say about Tony Gilroy before I forgot. And it's because we were talking about characters that they don't have to keep going back to. I mean, he went back and used Krennic once. That way he could put him up against Mon Mothma in that episode where they were in the art gallery, which makes sense. They were having a discussion on the nature of fascism. You know, and it was brief, and then he was gone. They used him very early on to set up the 3-episode arc of the Gorman's got some shit in the ground. We need that. You guys are going to go do that stuff. And then he effed off for 3 episodes. You know what I mean? Then he was quiet, and we didn't use him. But the interesting thing about Gilroy is that I was reading the other day that he had the opportunity, or he was greenlit to use Vader and Palpatine in this show, but he actually exercised enough creative restraint to know that it wasn't necessary. Yeah. And that it would just contaminate the individual arc and the process that he had to come up with the story he wanted to tell. He didn't want the crutch. He didn't want the training wheels.
Yep. You don't want to sit there and have to rely on the big ones to make your stuff good. You just need your stuff to be good. And that's what he did. And I love this part of Star Wars. Like, you always kind of wonder, like, how did this actually go down with the normal people, not just Force users? So
because Star Wars at one point was all normal people and no Force users besides Luke.
Yep. And Vader.
Through the OT, it's you get a glimpse of Obi-Wan, then it's only Luke and Vader, and then it's Luke, Vader, and Yoda.
And then and Palpatine.
And Palpatine. But he gets Force lightning at the end of episode 6.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. And then all of the other media that popped up around it, like Wars and the prequel trilogy, and it's all lightsabers and clones and Vader and the Emperor all the time.
Yeah.
And then let's bring in Darth Maul and the Sith and the Witches of Dathomir and then Gray Jedi in the game. Like, dude, you know what? Maybe I just wanted to see a guy whose home got burned out and decided he had to fight.
Yep.
And that's why I'm a fan of saying I want to see a world sympathetic to the Empire because they are prosperous and the rebels come through and destroy some family trucking business. What does that kid do when his parents are killed? Who does he become? Who does he hate? Why does he want to fight? You're right, dude. There's stories for this everywhere. We talk about the tales of the bounty hunters, tales from the cantina all the time.
Yeah.
Like, show me a bounty hunter show that isn't just the Mandalorian protecting Grogu for 3 years. You know, just cold cases week to week. Show me a badass. They could do it. But, dude, all right, that's Andor. Wait, what? 7, 8, 9? I don't know. I lost count.
Yeah, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
All right. So we'll wrap up here, but we will be back next week with the wrap up to season 2 of Andor. So go check out all the previous episodes, folks. We've loved talking about the show, and we'd love to hear comments in the comments about your thoughts on where it could go. And we'll catch up with you guys after that.
Laters.